Hello and welcome to Clydebridge Station. Back in 1936, Billy Butlin opened his very first holiday camp at Skegness, first of what would become a chain of holiday camps. Strictly speaking, the camp was actually located just across the town boundary in the next door village of Inglemells, but it's always been referred to as Butlin Skegness. And during the war it was known as HMS Royal Arthur, and Lord Haw Haw 3 times claimed that the Germans had sunk it. Further holiday camps by Billy Butlin followed at Clacton, Filey, Pwllheli, Ayr, Barry Island, Bognor Regis and Minehead, as well as some hotels and one holiday camp outside the UK at Mosney in the Republic of Ireland. Over the years those holiday camps reduced in number. Mosney was sold in the early 80s. Clacton and Filey both closed in 1983. The end of the 1986 season saw the ending of the camp at Barry Island. It was sold to another company who operated it for another 10 years. And Pwllheli and Ayr were transferred in 1998 to Butlin's sister firm at the time, Havens. Although it must be stressed that Havens and Butlins are now separate companies again. And this is a book that my mum got me in 1986, Hello Campers, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Butlins at the time. I was actually only 7 when my mum got me it, and I've always treasured that book. It was made by Bantam Press, and it was produced in conjunction with a one-hour-long documentary by Television South, the then ITV contractor for the south and southeast of England, what's now Meridian, and it tells quite a story of Butlins. And although this is not a story about the whole of Butlins holiday camps, what I will say is that there is an excellent website called Butlins Memories, and I'll put the link to that in the description below. It's not an official Butlins site, though Butlins has actually helped out with the Butlins Memories website in the past, but it shows you all sorts of photos, entertainment guides and postcards and plenty of other things about all the former and current Butlins holiday camps. There are just 3 of them at Skegness, Minehead and Bognor Regis. So what's all this talk about Butlins got to do with a modelling idea? Well, I mentioned to you there that the Butlins holiday camp started in 1936 at Skegness, and that's where the modelling idea is today, because my modelling idea for you is Skegness railway station, and it's actually a location that's got part of an influence on my layout, being a 6-track dead-end terminus with a sports ground just opposite. In the case of Skegness, it's a cricket ground across the road. The idea of offering you a terminal layout might seem strange at first, but you can, if you hear as I go along, you can actually provide some fascinating ideas when it comes to operating your layout. We'll also be able to show you from the files of Motive Power Monthly a photo taken in 1990 of 407 at Skegness awaiting departure. So just before we go and look at the rolling stock you need and all of that, let's just briefly tell you about the location of Skegness station and explain to you the surrounding area. Located at what's known as the Poacher Line, Skegness is the most eastern terminus of that line, and it's one of the very few surviving lines now left in Lincolnshire after a lot of lines were decimated thanks to beaching. Skegness station comprises 7 platforms, and there are run-round facilities between 2 platforms, but otherwise stock, if it's locomotive hauled, has to be propelled out into some reversing sidings beyond the station so that the locomotives can run round and propel the stock back into the station, and you'll see that with a photo there. I'll also be putting a couple of links to some videos of trains going to Skegness. The station itself is located in the town centre, and it comprises, as I say, 7 platforms, although some of these are now disused. And the station also comprises a concourse with a roof over it, but the platforms are uncovered. The station buildings that previously were there, the majority of them have now been demolished and replaced with glass frontage. Next to it is a bus station, and we'll talk about what you'll need rolling stock wise for the buses in a few minutes. In recent years, some of the land round this station area has been redeveloped. There's a Tesco and a Lidl supermarket there that might not have been there in the period that I'm modelling, 1982 to 1992, the sectorisation period. There's also quite an array of shops, and Google Street View will be your friend for this. The platforms are considerable length, and at the end of the platforms is a lone signal box, and the station platforms, access to them is by white gates that are opened by station staff prior to a train arriving or departing. The station area is cobbled at the concourse, and the station area also does not have any automatic electronic train describers. Instead, it just has the old manual ones. And also, of course, Skegness's famous son is the Jolly Fisherman. I can tell you right now that the Jolly Fisherman, his statue is actually there on the concourse at Skegness station, and you'll probably need to get him 3D printed if you do decide to model him. So before we go and check out rolling stock that you'll need and the buildings that you'll need, let's just take a look at that photograph of 47407. Now this was taken from the September 1990 edition of Motive Power Monthly, and you can just see there the canopy at Skegness station covering the concourse on the 23rd of June, a very nice summer's day. And there's another locomotive hauled train in that platform there, and you notice an air-conditioned Mark II coach there. It appears that the stock has just been shunted back into the station area, and the buffer stops you could just briefly see there are red, and you can see how big the platforms are. And I'll mention this again later on in the video, but there's no signs here at Skegness, saying Skegness in this platform. I don't see any platform lights. There's part of the station building subsequently demolished, and you can actually see the brick of the platforms there. So that train has got about 6 coaches in it, but I've known 8 or 9 coaches to be used on trains. This was actually a very the photo in fact was the 6th of May, and this locomotive sadly suffered a fire damage at a depot after operating a rail tour in June 1990. So this was just over a month before it met its maker, as we shall say. Something else to note about when you're actually looking at it here, you can see just down at the bottom there the white fencing of the separating the platform from the concourse. And note that this platform looks narrower than that platform, so do bear that. I mean, you don't have to have the platform different widths, it could all be the same width anyway. So it's an option there for you for the future. As I'm modelling only in the period of the sectorisation era, 1982 to 1994, although I'm actually doing 1980 in the late 80s, please do bear in mind that rolling stock that I'm talking about might not be applicable to your period of time. The majority of trains were formed of diesel multiple units, and these would have been in the blue and grey livery that was standard at the time. And these would have been in 2, 3 or 4 car formation, and there would have been various different classes, 101s, 108s, 115s for instance. It was quite possible to see 2 units coupled together, sometimes even 3 units coupled together. Such was the length of holiday traffic that was required back in the day. These units would have come from a variety of destinations, and towards the beginning of the early 1990s, sprinter units, mainly the Class 150, started to come onto the Skegness line, and these would have been either in normal regional railways livery or the original provincial livery. Occasionally some of these would have carried the Central PTE livery. Dudley Central runs a couple of trains in that livery, so that will give you an idea of a layout to check to see what I'm talking about. And these would have been the 150/1 variety. As far as I'm aware, 150/2s did not reach Skegness during the time I'm modelling, but I know that 150/2s did reach Grantham, where a lot of the Skegness trains would go to. In terms of the units themselves, these could be purchased from quite a wide range of manufacturers and retailers, although you might sometimes need to build little bits yourself if you're feeling confident enough. As for the locomotive haul trains, of which there was quite a few, the famous ones were of course the Summer Saturday Holidaymaker trains, which utilised Class 20s hauling a variety of Mark 1 and or Mark 2 coaches. These would have been employed in pairs, and once they reached Skegness, they would have been reversed back out, they propelled the train back out into the sidings, so that the locomotives could run around and propel the stock back in. The Class 20s were available in BR Blue, or they would have been in the Rail Freight red striped livery. Bachmann and Helion, I know, do make the Class 20s in both those liveries, so there's no problem getting that. And Mark 1s and Mark 2s in blue and grey livery, again, plenty of companies make those coaches, so you should have no trouble whatsoever in finding them. Class 31s did occasionally reach Skegness. A 58 reached there on a rail tour, and as you've already seen, Class 47s were also there as well. Now the 47s would not have just been in the large logo blue livery you've seen here, but they could have been in the Civil Engineers Dutch livery, and the Parcel Sector livery as well, and possibly the Intercity Executive livery. The Class 47 is such a popular machine, and I know that because it's my favourite loco, that lots of manufacturers make them, so you should not be stuck for finding a 47. Now, in terms of the bus station I mentioned to you there, the bus station is actually situated next to one of the disused platforms on what I would term the cricket ground side, because beyond that there's a cricket ground. And as I said again, using Google Street View and Google Maps will give you an idea of the locations and that. In the period that I'm modelling, the company was called, the main bus operator in Skegness was called Lincolnshire Roadcar, and it was owned by the National Bus Company, and its vehicles were in a green and cream livery. Initially it just had the word Lincolnshire in white with the NBC logo in white, the double arrow logo, but in 1988, during the privatisation of the NBC, Yorkshire Traction bought Lincolnshire Roadcar, and it changed the trading name to Roadcar, and it's stuck with this trading name until acquisition by the Stagecoach Group in 2005. The company now trades as Stagecoach. Getting buses in that livery is going to be a bit of a challenge, so it may be a sort of a respray job, but as I say, depending upon the period you're modelling, either the buses will have Lincolnshire on them, or they will have in yellow letting Roadcar, or you might have got a combination of both, because it's quite possible that the fleet names weren't changed over on all buses overnight. The bus station itself is made up of various concrete shelters, and I know that Scale Model Scenery make them, so again you should have no issues in getting bus shelters for your bus station there. The station buildings themselves, a lot of them have been disused over the years and they've been demolished, but the main station buildings Plenty of manufacturers make station buildings, and companies like Scale Model Scenery do make their own station buildings as well. You may have to actually scratch build it if you so wish. The overall roof, which you've already seen briefly in the photo of the train at Skegness, again, I think a couple of companies do make those roofs, but again, it might be a scratch building job. The most challenging bit of building Skegness station is actually the fact that the station itself is right in the town centre, and you're going to have to create some stuff around it. There's a Morrison's supermarket, which I believe was previously Safeway, built on one side of the station. Gauge Master sell a Fordhampton supermarket kit, and what you could do with that is it comes as an Aldi, but you could rebrand it. I've done that on Clydebridge station. I've actually rebranded mine as a Co-op Scotland, but also made it low relief, so you may have to do that. The surrounding buildings, there's pubs, a bingo hall, and plenty of other shops. You won't need to put all of these in, but what I would say to you is there's one of the unusual things in the station, in the area, in the immediate area of the station, is a Ford car dealership. So you could have a go at scratch building that. You probably have to download the Ford car company logo in order to do that. And also the cinema building, which is now a bingo hall. You can buy Metcalfe makes a low relief cinema entrance, and you can simply adapt that and expand it backwards, and it doesn't have to be a bingo hall. You could actually have it as a cinema. There's a couple of other shops such as Alison's, which I remember very interestingly in 1994, my last Butlins holiday, when dancing with a group of kids in the teen style club at Butlins one night. I split my jeans and Mum marched me down to Alison's to get a new pair the next day. Oops. But for all of this that I'm describing, Google Street View is what you're going to need, and downloadable paper kits or cardboard kits will be the sort of thing you'll need for that. In terms of all the platforms, again, Scale Model Scenery do what I think is the best platform kit, but Bachmann make a platform kits as well. So there's a couple of companies that you can actually get your platform kits from, and they will have to be quite long platforms to cope with trains of up to 8 or 9 coaches plus a locomotive. The buffer stops will just be ordinary wooden buffer stops. Hornby make them, as do Gauge Master, and you just could spray them to whatever colour you so wish. Station signs with Skegness on them, they can be purchased from a variety of companies, and I know the Eagle One Model Railways on eBay do a selection of signs. And Skegness did just survive into the regional railways era for signage as well. They did get their some regional railways branded signs, so go and check them out if you so wish. The track work, as I say, it was just straight and dead end track with a twin track station throat. But watch, as I say, because the station area between two of the platforms, there was a set of points to allow trains to run round, the locomotives to run round their train. These days only 2 platforms are used, but you can use artistic license to try and recreate what we term the glory days of Skegness Station, or Skeggy as my dad used to call it. There's a signal box as well at the far end of the station, and again, signal boxes are made by a variety of companies, so prices will be keen and there'll be a good choice out there. One thing I would say to you as well, now this is based upon my last visit to Skegness in 2006, so I don't know if this is still the case or not, but prior to a train arriving into Skegness, a bell would be sounded in the station concourse area so that the platform staff could come out and get ready to open the gate. I believe that bell would have come from the signal box. It might be something you could think about recreating in the actual layout if you do choose to build it. Could be something to have a go at looking at trying to recreate if you so wish, but do please bear in mind, if you're going to build this as an exhibition layout, it might annoy some people having a bell ringing all the time, but I say the option's there for you. Something else worth to say to you as well, and again we're looking at that photo of 47407, I don't see any lights on the platforms, so do bear that in mind. That's very unusual, that, but that Skegness didn't have any lights on its platforms. I don't know why that was the case, but again, do consider that as well. The track itself will probably be your normal track you can buy practically anywhere. It won't be the concrete track, I don't think it'll be that. And what you'll also find is that there'll be some weeds growing around in some of the platforms towards the mid-1990s as parts of the station got disused. Again, likes of Gauge Master, Woodland Scenics, these companies all make various bits of foliage, weeds, etc. that you can put near there. And last thing to mention to you about the platforms as well is that they're looking at the photo again, they're pretty much your bog standard normal platform surface with maybe one or two signs on them. One final thing about the station area is that there was a very small drop-off point at the station entrance, but there was not actually a proper car park. Looking on Street View will give you this idea, and by the way, there'll be photos out there on the internet of Skegness Station, so again, you'll be spoilt for choice for ideas. I've given you some ideas there of the types of rolling stock that would have been used to go to Skegness, and I must mention as well that I've got a book in my wardrobe here called British Rail in Colour #2, which came out in 1986, I believe, by Hugh Dady, or 87 by Hugh Dady. It was either Hugh Dady or Howard Johnson. It has the last photo inside the book has a class 37 near Peterborough in 1975 on a Sunday hauling a Skegness to Cambridge train. So if you are actually wanting to model just prior to the period I'm doing, or immediately into the period I'm doing, and you love your class 37s, that might be a possibility as well. Don't bother getting a class 08 shunter. To my knowledge, Skegness did not have a station pilot in the period sectorisation period, so don't bother about that. That's one bit where you will save money. Forget about a class 08 shunter, unless of course you want to take the attitude that it's your light, you'll run what you want, in which case you could have a 08 shunter. There was no goods yard, by the way, and engineers' trains just simply use one of the other platforms or the run-round sidings beyond the station. So that completes this video looking at a modelling idea, Skegness Station. And as I say, go and check out the Butlins Memories website just to see what you think of it. And just as a final plea, this just doesn't apply to Skegness as well, but to any of the camps. If you've got any photographs, postcards, or any other information about any of the Butlins holiday camps, even entertainment guides and maps, then do let that site know, because I could assure you they would love to hear from you. Anyway, that's all for this video. Next video on this channel, it'll be the March 2024 update, when we'll be redoing the track and platforms 4, 5 and 6. I look forward to your company for that. In the meantime, whatever you're doing, please do take care of yourselves and enjoy your lights. I'll see you soon. Bye bye for now.